Lisa Nandy for the opposition this morning. Good morning. Inflation figures to start with. Thoughts on those?
I mean, catastrophic for a lot of people and really, really worrying. We've still got 12 days to go until the Chancellor is going to bring forward new measures to replace that catastrophic mini budget that crashed the economy and sent people's mortgage payments through the roof. Now you've got pensioners, people on benefits waiting to see what is going to happen to them. This is lives hanging in the balance. It's time this government got a grip, reversed the mini budget in full, but calm back to the markets and brought forward proposals to actually help people this winter.
Yeah, that's the Foreign Secretary would say that's what they're doing, and that he also made the point this morning, we all make mistakes.
I mean, this is one hell of a mistake. They've crashed the economy. They've sent mortgage payments and rent increases through the roof. We're still seeing that huge volatility coming through. Interest rates expected to rise again. People just can't take much more of this. I don't get any sense, having spent the last couple of days in Parliament around Tory MPs questioning the government, that there is any agreement amongst this divided party about where to go next. They started the fire. They sure aren't the people who are going to go and put it out.
Yeah, but if you took over tomorrow, Labour government, you'd still have all of these issues.
We would have one of the worst economic situations that any government has inherited, and we've been really clear that there would be no magic wand. But what we would do is make fairer choices, asking those with the broadest shoulders to bear the greatest burden. When you've got the chief executive...
What does that actually mean?
Well, when you've got the chief executive of Shell saying tax us more, it beggars belief that the government is still dragging its feet. The oil and gas producers have made big profits. We think we should expand the windfall tax to help more people. We think we should scrap non-dom status to raise money to invest in the National Health Service to help the million people who are currently on waiting lists. Instead, you've got a government that is mooting more cuts for the NHS and raising taxes on working people. It's just unconscionable.
Jeremy Hunt has said that he is looking at a windfall tax. He said nothing's off the table.
Well, he said nothing's off the table, but unfortunately for the country at the moment, nothing's on the table either. The government has been following, admitted belatedly, some of the proposals that we've made. Just a few weeks ago, Liz Truss was mocking the Labour Party for not setting out 2-year plans on energy and instead setting out 6 months plans. They've accepted that it's better to set out properly costed 6-month plans that you can actually deliver for people than it is to just play fantasy economics and play fast and loose with people's money. That's what we want to see from the Chancellor in 12 days' time, properly costed plans that they can actually deliver with working people currently paying the price for the crisis that was made in Downing Street.
Would you put up income tax?
We'd like to see we supported the top rate of tax returning to the level that it was at previously, because we think it's wrong to cut taxes for the wealthiest at a time when people are really struggling. And we'd like to see taxes on working people come down, but we wouldn't support unfunded, uncosted measures, because in the end it's those same people who pay the price. We've seen that with mortgage payments. They've gone up by an eye-watering £500 on average a month since the Tories crashed the economy with a huge package of unfunded borrowing commitments, and we're not going to make that same mistake. Everything that we set out will be fully costed ahead of the next election.
Would you go higher than 45p in the pound?
Well, we think those with the broadest shoulders should bear the greatest burden. But
yes.
We supported keeping the top rate of income tax. We said that we would reverse the cut. We've been completely consistent on that, and we're not planning to change that position now. But we will set out proper measures ahead of the next general election. We have no idea what economic situation we're going to inherit in 2024 at this stage. The government is still gagging the Office of Budget Responsibility. They're not allowing them to publish their impact assessment or forecasts. We think that's wrong. Jeremy Hunt is committed to bringing that forward. Let's see that as quickly as possible so that we can get on with making plans to repair the damage that the Tories have done.
So could we see 50p in the pound for top rate of tax?
Tempting as it is, Kate, I'm not going to write a budget for the next Labour government live on Sky, although I'm sure that you guys would be the first to know once we have. It's really important that we're careful with people's money. We've seen what happens when you're not, and this is their money, not ours. People don't have a lot of it at the moment, and we're going to be careful with every penny when we set out commitments, when we set out how we're going to raise money as well as how we're going to spend money. We're going to show people that we've thought that through, and that we can stick to it and that we can actually deliver.
Last time you were in power, you weren't, no? I mean, I remember the note. I'm sure it still haunts you. As a Labour Party, there's no money left, was the note?
Well, no, but there was no money left anywhere in the world because we had a global financial crash.
We do now.
And if we hadn't had Gordon Brown in 10 Downing Street at the time, things could have been substantially worse. That bailout package helped to shore up people's pensions and their life savings. You remember the queues outside Northern Rock. People were panicking, they were terrified, and we brought stability back to the system. That's the opposite of what this government's done. They've crashed the system, and we're coming back to try and win back the trust of people to govern in order that we can repair that damage again.
I'm guessing the government would say that that's exactly what this man has done, Jeremy Hunt. He's steadied the nerves.
Jeremy Hunt is the person who sat in every cabinet over the last 12 years
this morning
and helped to get this country into this mess. He brought the National Health Service to its knees. He presided over huge amounts of waste in the National Health Service. They didn't invest to help make the NHS more productive in capacity, in buildings, in digitalisation of services, and as a consequence we're all paying the price. This is a man who is responsible for a lot of the damage that has been done over the last 12 years. He's not the person who's going to set it right.
How worried are we about the fact that Ben Wallace has gone to Washington? He used to be a shadow foreign, didn't you? He's gone to Washington. Suggestions are that there are deep concerns about what Putin is doing with his nuclear armoury.
I think the whole situation in Russia is incredibly worrying. I think it's right of Ben Wallace and the government to stand shoulder to shoulder with our NATO allies. We fully support them in that. And we also think, as Ben Wallace reportedly thinks, that if Jeremy Hunt is trying to cut funding for defence at a time when we're engaged in dealing with enormous Russian aggression and the very unpredictable actions of an authoritarian leader in our own neighbourhood, that would be the wrong thing to do. And if Ben Wallace wants to have that fight with his own party, we, of course, will stand with him in order to try and win that.
OK, and what would you say to... I also put it to the Foreign Secretary. It was pointed out to me yesterday that we do need to do something because he's a madman with nukes.
Well, I mean, you know, I learned during the time that I served as Shadow Foreign Secretary that you don't inflame situations, you try to calm them down, and diplomacy is always better than escalating the situation.
How do you use diplomacy with Putin?
Well, you can't. And that's why we've got to use the diplomatic tools that we've got to stand with our closest neighbours across Europe and not be divided, to stand with our NATO allies and not be divided. That's where we need to focus our efforts in order to put up a strong, firm, united front against Russian aggression and show Putin that he just can't win.
OK, it's always a pleasure. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.